There are a few simple rules to follow to make the overall experience of a project closeout work for all parties. Subcontractors are looking for clear directions at this stage. Owners are expecting contractual terms to be met, and in the general contractor's office, the pull to move on to another project is strong. Likely along the way too, the consultants have depleted most of their project funds since they're typically in a fixed fee contract and in many cases may not have enough money left to cover the expenses in the final few months, especially if the project has gone over schedule. The pressures associated for all parties, including the owner, who now needs to put their facilities or the project for the intended use or to start to earn revenue, means that all parties have to participate and work together to get the project truly closed out and off the books and function into its highest, best use and maximum return on investment. All projects by definition have a start, middle, and an end. They contain elements of risk, and in the end they have to achieve a beneficial change. In construction, generally speaking, we're really good at the start and the middle. It's where revenues are strong, attitudes even stronger, and we can see a significant change in the landscape from where we started. There typically has not been a lot of rework if the contract has been reasonably well produced. It's typically at the end, at about the 80% mark, where we see numerous changes and a period of rework where morale suffers and at all levels and by all parties. By employing a strategic framework and best practices, the process of closeout can be easier to accomplish than most think. If you have not already collated specification into a system that works, get this done early, well in advance of the closeout period before construction starts, and make it a part of your startup checklist. At that time, take the opportunity to draw out the closeout requirements from the specification and create a closeout checklist. Put this aside for later on. This is your touchstone to the future, and you'll be surprised when you look back and draw on it later on that you don't have to go rooting back to the specification and general conditions. Checking in with the consultant team who will ultimately be signing off on the final certificate of payment is always a good idea. Check in around the 50% mark through construction, have a frank discussion and send off the initial checklist with what has been interpreted as needed for closeout. Allow the consultants a chance to redline within reason and to get on the same page so some buy-in of the closeout process is achieved. Transmittals are critical for project success. There is nothing more time-consuming or frustrating than when one party claims they've not received a critical piece of information. Not good enough either to simply have a transmittal. The transmittal should make sure it's detailed on when it went over your office with drawing numbers or specification sections or shop drawing numbers, and keep a running system of the iterations for each. If you don't have the last issue in your file, there can be unnecessary problems. It is not a glamorous part of the project, but keeping an eye on the specification just about daily is important to the success of any project. Keep in mind the specifications serve as the owner's transfer of intelligence and data to the project. Whether they've been prepared by the consultants or the owners themselves or a professional specification writer, they are what your bid was based on and need to serve the interests of the project. Owners, consultants will be relying on the generals and subs to adhere to the specifications they base their bid on. Any alterations to those specifications ought to have occurred at the tender stage, oftentimes months before the problem seems to crop up. Unless it is a change order that was needed because an owner altered the scope of work, in an ideal best practice scenario, the specification ought to have been thoroughly vetted and RFIs dealt with during a tender. In a perfect world, there are no arguments on the site over specified products no longer working for the project. They may need to be discussed around the complexity of how components go together, but not about the components themselves. The bottom line is, no matter how complex or simple the project is, the attitudes of the parties in the contract at the end of the job will often affect the outcome. A good project manager working for the sub will roll up his or her sleeves to see that they can close off their books on the project. That can-do attitude then transfer to a general who can do the same with confidence. If the consultant is on the ball and engaged and knows that the contracting team is engaged, they will be quick to respond and make sure that their reputation stays intact. More importantly, their interest in the liability which they carry for the next 20 years remains intact through good file keeping and record management. This is the last module on the course. Congratulations and thank you for participating in this e-learning course. The TCA values your engagement and commitment to project excellence, and we proudly support our members and their business dealings to project success.